Reporting live from the Stephen C. O'Connell Center, Jack Meyer, WUFT Sports. Some of the throws that Lagway made were just simply incredible. Like, it doesn't matter what defense you're facing. When 3 of your first completions in the game are for 40 yards or more, you've got a cannon back there. I'm here with head coach Greg Bowie and Hawthorne leading scorer Chasen Wilson. And I got to ask you, Coach, how does it feel to be a champion again? Started things off right here in Gainesville. The Florida men's basketball team is back in the AP Top 5 following a huge win over #1 Auburn this past Saturday. March means a lot of things, from blossoming flowers to changing your clocks. But for college hoops fans, it also marks perhaps the best time of year, March Madness. Now we're going to switch back over to the gridiron, where the Florida Gators football team is still reeling from an injury-plagued weekend following a loss to number 11 Tennessee last Saturday. Now the Rams have a chance to prove themselves once again on their home turf against what Coach Harold Hoskins called a very talented Williston squad. Out of Florida's 32-player class, Napier said that 7 of these recruits are expected to join the team this coming summer. Reporting live from Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, Jack Meyer, WUFT Sports. The Florida Gator to Kansas City Royal pipeline appears to be running stronger than ever before. At least, it looks this way based on this year's spring training slate out in Arizona. One clear-cut example of this, Jack Caglione, the former Gators phenom who went from smashing moonshots in Gainesville
that one is blasted
to suiting up in the baby blue of KC.
You know, you go from playing at Conjuring in front of 5,000+, then you go to Davenport, Iowa, and you're playing in front of 500. So figuring that out has been fun, especially the spring training, being able to go and play, be with a bunch of fans. It felt like home, so it was nice.
But Caglione isn't the only former Florida phenom that went out west last month. Brady Singer, the pitcher that helped lead Florida to a 2017 national title, was shipped from Kansas City to Cincinnati earlier this offseason. In exchange, the Royals landed infielder Jonathan India, one of Singer's teammates from the UF's 2017 squad. While Singer will suit up for the Reds this coming spring, India and Caglione will remain with the Royals, the latter of whom will start 2025 back in the minor leagues. But while he inches closer and closer to making his major league debut, Caglione is making sure that he holds on to the love for baseball that made him a star in the first place.
Just never lose the way you felt as a kid playing the game, really. The more you start worrying about the future, it kind of takes away from what's going on in the now. So,
you're watching WUFT TV News.
Happy Monday, everyone. I'm Jack Meyer. Let's get the show on the road with some Florida men's basketball. And despite 6 wins in a row, the Gators dropped 1 spot in the latest AP poll. Florida fell to number 3 in this week's rankings, and with Auburn and Duke ranking 1-2. The Gators just survived a scare on the road this past weekend against the LSU Tigers. Despite trailing by 6 points at halftime, Florida rode a second-half surge to a 79-65 victory. As UF now enters the home stretch of its season, head coach Todd Golden announced on Tuesday that standout forward Alex Condon is expected to return to the court this week.
I think he'll play tomorrow night. I do, unless something happens at practice today. He was very close on Saturday. I think he wanted to play. He was chomping at the bit a little bit. But, you know, just as we've been able to do with Walt and Elijah, we just don't want to bring him back too early.
Up next for the Gators is another road contest tomorrow, this time against the Georgia Bulldogs. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. Staying put on the hardwood, Florida's women's squad put a ranked opponent of their own to the test on Sunday as they took on the number 15 Tennessee Lady Volunteers. Florida came out of the gates looking for a dogfight as there's Layla Reynolds coming down with a huge block as she's going to take it right back down the court, pass it off to Liv McGill here. Now McGill, she's had a phenomenal season for Florida. She's going to dance around at the top of the key a little bit. She's going to slice and dice her way through the paint for a fancy finish. Now Florida was up by 6 points at the end of the first half, but that changed as Tennessee broke out on a 37-point third quarter. This game went right down to the wire, but all of a sudden, Volunteers, it was nothing but Tennessee for the rest of the evening. It was all sealed here on this and one over UF's Alexia Mobley. This play in turn just all but sealed Florida's fate in this ballgame. UF was unable to come away with its first ranked win this season as the Lady Vols escaped Gainesville unscathed in an 86-78 victory. Florida head coach Kelly Ray Finley said that while she was proud of her squad's efforts, Tennessee's explosive third quarter proved to be the Gators' undoing.
You know, that third quarter got away from us. I thought we made some, errors defensively. You know, they made an adjustment. We knew at halftime that, some things might change, in areas that we couldn't control.
Now switching on over to the Diamond, Florida baseball is moving on up in the rankings following their 7-0 start to the 2025 campaign. Florida took care of business against the Dayton Flyers in historic fashion this weekend. The Gators came away with double-digit victories in all 3 of their games this weekend, marking the first time they've done so in 20 years. UF rose 2 spots to number 8 in this week's D1 baseball poll. This week, the Gators will travel to DeLand for a matchup with Stetson on Tuesday before returning to Gainesville the next day to play host to North Florida. Now, Florida baseball isn't the only Gator squad that's been tearing it up on the Diamond as of late. UF softball is coming off a dominant weekend of its own at the Sun Devil Classic in Arizona. The Gators capped off a 5-0 weekend with a flat-out stellar showing against Iowa State. Florida ended up scoring 3 touchdowns and a field goal, yes, you heard that right, en route to a 24-3 win over the Cyclones. Junior third baseman Kenley Cahalan led the way in UF's weekend finale with 3 hits and 6 RBIs. Next up, the Gators will take on FGCU in a Wednesday midweek contest before hosting the Florida Invitational this coming weekend. Meanwhile, the Florida women's golf team came away with a second-place finish at this weekend's Reynolds Lake Oconee Invitational in Greensboro, Georgia. All 6 of UF's golfers finished inside the top 20 of the event. Sophomore Inez Archer led the way for Florida with a 5th-place individual finish, as she shot 5 over for the weekend. The Gators now have 2 events remaining in their regular season: the Gators Invitational, which will run from March 7th to 9th, and the Chattanooga Invitational, which will take place at the end of March. And finally, Florida's men's tennis squad is taking on the Alabama Crimson Tide as we speak. At last check, the Gators and the Tide were all tied up at 3 points each. They were actually supposed to play on the outdoor courts today, but they had to move on inside because of all the rain, but clearly that hasn't stopped the excitement on the court today. Longtime Oak Hall head coach Kevin Maris was born into baseball royalty. As the son of former MLB home run king Roger Maris, Kevin has been around the game of baseball for as long as he can remember.
Well, we were born into the game, and from a young age, all we knew was baseball, and Dad, I was 8 before Dad had retired, so I was able to see a little bit of him play.
Roger Maris hit a then MLB record 61 home runs with the New York Yankees in 1961. After finishing his time in the pros, however, the baseball legend moved to Gainesville and wanted to set his family up for success. The first step there, helping to get a young Kevin back on the diamond at Oak Hall.
I remember back in 1977, we didn't have a baseball field. And he was out here, he talked to Steinbrenner. He ended up asking George that if George would be nice enough to donate the sod, or whatever he could to help start this program. Now it is what it is now, and I think we've kept it up pretty good, and I think we're very proud to have his name on this field.
Kevin Maris has continued his family's legacy while at the helm with Oak Hall, leading the Eagles to back-to-back district titles in the last 2 years. Maris's own players have cited how he instills the same values in them that his father once instilled in him.
He's been around the game since before he could walk or talk or any of that, so just being able to bring all this perspective from all these years of knowledge and just seeing, every single play that could possibly happen in baseball.
Even the team's newcomers have noted just how passionate Maris is in teaching them the game of baseball.
Coach Maris takes his time to teach every player, no matter who it is. It could be the youngest kid on the team, the oldest kid on the team, the most experienced, the most inexperienced, and he really takes his time to give his wisdom that he's learned.
The Maris family may have a legacy on the diamond like no other, but Kevin Maris doesn't focus too much on the glitz and glamour that all this attention may bring. He always has and always will prioritize his players and helping them grow, both on and off the field.
What I take more pride in is guys coming back to me 25 years later telling me how good, they appreciate our program. To hear stories like that from ex-players from 25 years ago, that means as much to me as any championship ever.